Well, thank you for coming out.
You're welcome.
It's hard to get you in here because you're so busy in your schedule. It's just like, it's just sporadic. But I kind of like kidnapped you for a second. But can you tell everybody what your name is?
Yes. Well, my taxpayer name is Miranda Belarde Lewis. And my Zuni name is Tsatanaditsa. And my Tlingit name is Shkik. Yeah.
Okay. And do you want to give me a little background on that?
Well, my dad is Zuni from Zuni Pueblo in New Mexico, and that's where I grew up. And my name basically means the daughter of Tsatsilu, which is my dad's name. So it's kind of...
Zuni is a
Zuni is they call us Pueblos, and there's 20 Pueblos.
Oh.
19 are in New Mexico, one is in Arizona.
Oh.
And on my mom's side, we're Tlingit, which is a tribe from Southeast Alaska.
Oh.
And
so you got Pueblo in Alaska?
Yeah, an
cool.
Alaska Native. And then the name on the Alaska side is from one of my relatives, one of my ancestors, and my grandmas are the ones that gave me that name.
Oh, cool.
When I was little.
So what type of work do you do?
Well, I like working with Native artists.
Native artists?
Yeah, and museums. And so the majority of my career has been working with museums, mostly tribal museums or museums that have Native collections.
Native collections?
And so it was my dream to be a curator and to put together art exhibits. And so I did that for a few years after I graduated, working with different museums in the area, in the Puget Sound area.
Right.
And right now, I went back to the academy, and my title is assistant professor at the University of Washington.
You assistant professor?
Yeah.
So you went from curator to professor?
Yeah.
Like, how do I don't understand? Like, can we connect the dots?
When I was working in museums when I was an undergrad, and just after graduating from college, when I was working at the Smithsonian in DC, a lot of the curators, they had PhDs.
Oh.
And they explained to me that, if you want to work in a major museum as a curator, you either have to start, and go through the ranks and build your way up, or you can go get a PhD. And then you can, start working as a curator if that's your chosen path. So I went and got a PhD.
Wow.
And when you get a PhD, then the expectation from everybody around you is that you're going to be a professor.
Oh.
And I said no for a few years, and I went and worked as a curator.
Oh.
But if you have a PhD, that possibility of being a professor is always available.
Oh.
If the right job comes up and if you are the top candidate.
Oh, okay.
And so a job came up that I applied for, and I got the job.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
What actually is a curator? I mean,
a curator is somebody that tells stories through collections of art.
Oh. Okay.
In museums. And so then when you go into a museum and they have like an Andy Warhol exhibit, there's somebody that picked which pieces of the Warhol art you're going to see.
Oh.
Because they're either trying to tell a story of the early life or later life, or when people thought he was crazy, or, that type of thing. Whatever kind of story they're trying to say. Sometimes it's a kind of a boring story.
Really?
And they say, here's a bunch of old cowboys and Indians paintings. Look at them. And you say, okay, well, what kind of story are you trying to tell here?
Yeah, it's interesting.
And sometimes it's a deeper story.
So it takes a lot of schooling and like a lot of motivation and discipline to kind of get a PhD, right?
It does.
Like how many? I mean, how many years of school does it take?
Anywhere from, I've heard of superstars that have gotten their PhD in 3 years.
3 years?
And they regretted it.
Oh.
Because it was so intense.
Oh.
It was so intense that they just felt so burned out for 3 years or longer after they graduated.
Oh.
It took me 5 years to get mine, which is still a relatively short time.
Wow.
But I've heard of people taking up to 10 years.
Wow.
Which is, in my opinion, too long.
Yeah, it'll take me like 20 years.
So a lot of schools don't let you. They have
really?
a cutoff after 10 years. Like, you have to graduate.
Oh, really?
Uh-huh.
So how did you discipline yourself to make yourself do this, like jump through these hoops and, you know, just like stick with it and just like not let anyone tell you like that was a bad idea?
One way was thinking about how many of my family never got to go to college.
Oh, yeah.
And thinking of it as a blessed burden.
Yeah.
You know, because there's so many smart people, you know, in our communities and in our families, and they just never get the opportunity to go. And so if I have the opportunity, then I should go.
Oh, yeah.
And then also I had a partner who, when I got accepted into the PhD program, and I told him that I didn't know if I was going to do it. And he looked at me and he said, "Are you crazy? You have to do it."
Yeah, you're crazy. That's called opportunity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the other one of the ways that I know that I made it through, because I probably could have made it through on my own,
Yeah.
but it would have been really, really hard.
What do you mean?
Because it's already hard for anybody that goes to get a PhD.
Oh. Yeah.
But it would have been harder if I didn't have the research group that I was a part of.
Oh, yeah.
Because there was, in my cohort, there was 8 of us that got admitted into the PhD program. And out of that 8, 3 of us were Indigenous women.
Oh.
And so we went through that program together.
Oh.
And our primary mentor and advisor, she was a Native woman.
Oh, really?
And so we helped each other.
Yeah. That's what you have to do.
Yeah.
It's so competitive. It's uncommon for people to help each other these days.
Well, and it's competitive in a weird way because when you're going for a PhD, depending on what you're studying and what you want to research, you either get support for it or not.
Oh.
And so if it's something that you have that people can support you on, it's a relatively easier to go through because there's so much red tape. There's so many weird hoops that you have to jump through.
Oh, yeah.
To satisfy the standards of the academy of whichever school you're at.
Oh.
And then there's the internal politics.
Oh, yeah.
Which is everywhere.
You just gotta.
And then there's also the if you have a controversial research topic,
Yeah.
and people just don't get it, it's hard for them to support you.
Yeah.
And that's what you need when you go through. You need somebody to be your champion. That can stand up and tell other people, "Oh yeah, it's legit."
Yeah.
I vouch for this person and their research because it has value in a place that's always trying to establish value.
You go to school and you're a curator, you're a professor now. I know that probably involves most of your time, but aside from that, what is some of the things you're truly passionate about?
My kids,
Okay. Yeah.
my family, and helping to promote and preserve Native culture.
Okay. Do you find you're like a voice for people that don't have a voice?
A lot of times, yeah.
Okay.
And I'm asked to speak about Native issues, which is good because then they're asking somebody who is Native
Yeah.
You know, I always appreciate that when people are asking Native people to speak about Native issues.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's a little bit dangerous because then they expect that my answer fits all Natives.
Oh, yeah.
And that's dangerous because there's so many different types of Native that there's no way that one person could speak.
Okay.
You know, so many different, and even within the communities that I belong to, there's so many different ways of being Zuni. You know, that just because you ask a Zuni person a question doesn't mean that their answer represents all of Zuni.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Do you have a philosophy that you live by that you want to share with everyone? Like
a philosophy.
Just like a way of thinking. Like some people when they meet someone new, they usually are generally nice to them because they don't know them and they want to get to know them, or they just respect them for who they are. And some other people will meet someone and basically make them earn their respect. So like which person are you? Like
I'm more of a I try to not make assumptions about people.
Yeah.
Because I've been burned by my own assumptions about people.
Yeah.
And so I really try to just let the person's actions tell me who they are.
Yeah.
And that's hard because I'm also trying to learn to trust my gut reaction.
Yeah. It's hard. Your gut's not always right.
It's not always right, but the times when I wish I would have listened, like they were big things.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and so I'm trying to listen to my intuition more.
Yeah.
But at the same time, trying not to be totally cynical.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
that's important.
Yeah, and trying to teach Kutsi, you know, to be open-minded about people and to not assume the worst.
Yeah. But you gotta be guarded.
But you gotta keep your shields up and also to just protect yourself.
Yeah.
And to trust yourself. So it's a weird balance.
It is a weird balance.
And I think balance is kind of my life philosophy right now.
That's cool.
Is that I need to be able to say no to things.
Yeah.
And to be able to protect my time.
Yeah.
Because that's protecting my sanity.
Yeah.
Which protects my health.
I've learned that it's important to like choose what you let affect you.
Oh yeah.
Like I mean, people will throw things at you all day and just be like, and it can eat you up if you let it.
It can.
So
my mom has this drawing that she does for people, and it's a circle, and there's a line down the middle. And the line down the middle is you. And there's everything in the world, you know, all people's thoughts and how they treat you. It all stops with you because you're the only one that can let it affect you.
Yeah.
And then you have no control over what gets thrown into you or towards you. But only you can choose how it affects you.
Yeah.
And then on the other side of that circle, you know, there's you, and you sending out all your messages, all your words, all your thoughts, all your actions into the world, but you have no control over how people receive that.
Interesting.
And so you're the only thing that you have control over in this whole world.
That's cool.
And so just to keep that in mind, you know, and it's really been helpful when I want to take things personally or I think that somebody's attacking me.
Yeah.
Or I wonder why they didn't understand what I said.
Yeah.
Or why there's a misunderstanding. So is it me not communicating clearly?
Yeah.
Or is it them just taking it however they want?
Yeah. I feel like a lot of it, you have to try to understand that person too and understand where they're coming from to like kind of, you know, decipher what's going on, because like sometimes people give you a weird attitude for no reason, and you just, you know, you take it the wrong way. But if you understand why they're like that,
Mm-hmm.
why they're that way, then you'll put less blame on yourself.
Right.
But what are some characteristics that you have that make you more successful than others? I mean,
let's see. I think I'm a creative problem solver.
creative problem solver.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And kind of a quick thinker.
Quick thinker.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And so if you have those types of qualities, then
Like decision making is fast, or
sometimes no,
Yeah.
but I do come up with solutions. I don't know, always use them,
Yeah.
but I come up with some solutions pretty quickly.
do you think like steps ahead of like a certain goal?
Yeah, and sometimes that gets me in trouble
Oh, okay.
because I'm thinking too far ahead.
Oh,
And the first step I need to do is like put on my shoes and leave the house on time.
yeah.
But I'm already thinking, okay, if I miss the ferry, then I'm going to do this. But if I can't drive on, then I'm going to do this. And if I can't, it's like too many steps down the road when sometimes I need to focus on what's really close.
You know what? Like a lot of people don't do that.
Yeah.
I mean, think ahead like that, and that just that alone will save you a lot of grief.
Yeah. Then another thing that is helpful when you're trying to do stuff is just being resilient, and taking failures as lessons instead of defeats. You're like, all right, that sucks that it didn't work out, but what can I learn from this, or how can I do it better next time, or
Yeah.
it's like really learning from failure.
Because you failed before, right?
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah. You didn't become a doctor just without making a mistake. So.
I made lots of mistakes
Yeah.
in personal relationships,
Yeah.
in grant writing, in judgment calls on people, like
Yeah.
just all kinds of mistakes.
That's.
But just try to do better next time.
Yeah, I think like just not letting those mistakes tear you down.
Right.
That's just like a lot of people will stop at like one mistake and say, "Oh, that's bad."
I tried it and I failed, so that's it.
Yeah.
And then that can't be it.
So persistency is the key.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's a cool characteristic. Quick thinking. What was the other thing?
Creative problem solving.
Creative problem solving. That's like a logical. Like that's kind of how guys think.
Is it?
Yeah, because we're like logical people. Like if it doesn't make sense, why are we doing it? Like
Yeah. I think another thing that is key that is really going away is just diplomacy.
Oh.
Because my grandpa was governor of our community for 30 years, and he was such a great diplomat. Even when he didn't like people,
Oh yeah.
he would take the time to talk to them and listen to them,
Yeah.
and then decide for himself, I still don't like that guy, but it wasn't an excuse to hate them,
Yeah.
and it wasn't an excuse to not listen to them,
Yeah.
because we're all humans and we
Yeah.
all want to be heard. We all want to be listened to. We all want to be treated with respect. And it really sucks to see our kids growing up in a time when it's so easy to just speak with hate
Yeah.
about people you don't even know.
Yeah.
And you might not like what they're doing or how they speak about others, or just that they're racist or
Yeah.
whatever, but in the core of it, they are a person too.
Yeah.
And
Goes back to understanding. How
understanding
they grew up.
and to understand that we're all in this together. We're on
Yeah.
a sinking ship
Yeah.
together. So like, are we gonna try to make the ship better,
Yeah.
or are we just gonna fight while the whole thing sinks to the bottom?
I know.
And so then the diplomacy is what's really going away. And for me, it's helped out so much that it's not being neutral, because I think if you're neutral, then you're being ineffective.
Oh yeah.
But by being diplomatic and being respectful, even
Yeah.
when you disagree, you
Hearing
can
both
get
sides.
you can get a lot farther.
Yeah.
You can build up those relationships, and people will remember that.
Yeah. That's interesting. Like, so, I know you have like a lot of things going on in your world. There's I mean, you're juggling a lot of hats right now. Being a professor, taking the ferry, like I don't know how long you do that. Then you still have your obligations here, and then you have you take Hootsie to practice, and then you have a marriage that you have to uphold.
Maintain.
So you're doing a lot of work right now. What do you do? How do you handle stress? Like, what is it? What do you do about it?
I exercise.
Exercise?
I like to exercise to handle stress. I mean, I don't really like to exercise, but I know it helps me. And I like to watch makeup bloggers.
Oh, nice.
And nail polish bloggers
Okay,
on
that's a good-
Instagram.
Okay.
And I like looking for funny memes. I like making art. You know, that's my ultimate relaxation, is making art. And beadwork is really, really helpful for me that way, because it's a repetitive motion, you know, and it's color selection. I should probably get back into painting, because it's easier to pull out some paints than to get all my beads set up. That's why I like pen and ink.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's just one pen and a pot of ink and paper.
And just, do you have any drawings?
I don't with me.
Like, what are they? Are they like animals? Like, I picture like a crow and like.
You know, I haven't tried doing animals. I do a lot of geometric work. I do a lot of pottery designs, Southwest Zuni pottery designs.
Okay.
Up in Alaska, our tribe has some incredible floral designs and geometric designs that are in basketry and weaving. And so I like trying to figure those out.
Just like I do see that.
On
That's like
paper.
Old school, like prehistoric, like designs.
Yeah.
Like the geometric.
A lot of diamonds,
Yeah.
a lot of wave designs, but the waves are, you know, in rectangle form.
Oh yeah.
And so then, and they're repetitive because they were going around a basket. And I like trying to figure those out. I draw a lot of corn because my clan is corn.
Oh, your clan is corn.
Yeah, in Zuni.
Back to like your perspective of life and stuff. Do you believe that about the law of attraction, like that concept, which is basically
Like attracts like, and
yeah,
that kind of thing? Yeah.
like whatever you put out is what you're gonna receive, and vice versa. Like if you put out happiness, the good vibes, like positivity, friendship, and just content, you most likely will get that back. And people that kind of put out negativity, cynical or cynicism, I don't know what the word is, but just that type of negative energy, they attract those type of people. Do you kind of believe that?
I do.
Yeah.
I do. And it manifests in weird ways.
Yeah.
You know, because we're in such a weird point in history, and maybe it's always been like this, but if you're only putting out, you know, the good vibes, and you're only putting out all of these without being smart about it, you could attract people that take advantage of that, you know, because they understand that you're only going to see the good.
Yeah.
And that sets up a lot of enabling behavior.
That's true.
But at the same time, I think that those people are also shielding themselves from a lot of the awful things in the world.
Yeah.
By choosing to focus on the positive, you know, all the time.
Well, yeah, that's true.
And then for the people that are cynical and bitter, and they put that out there, or that's how they're viewing the world, then you're just gonna see more of that.
I guess like my perspective is like there's so much problems in the world like going on. I mean, you can focus on anything. You can focus on like the starving children in Ethiopia,
Right.
and if you worried about every single problem that went in the world, you would just have the grayest hair.
Yeah.
I mean, it's good to have like, I think it's good to have just things you stand by and that you support, but I think it's just like you're doing yourself a disfavor if you try to worry about everything.
Yeah.
And some people try. I mean,
They do, and it's also because their heart is so big.
Yeah.
That they try to care about everything, and
Even more than themselves sometimes.
Yeah. And in some ways, worrying about problems around the world, it creates distance between you and what's going on right here around you. And so
you gotta focus on you.
You have to focus on you and your family, and that's one of the most radical things that you can do right now, is to focus on the happiness of your family.
Yeah.
And focus on your own happiness, and not to the detriment of others or in a way that's going to harm other people.
Yeah.
But if you focus on bringing joy to your own life and to your family's life, you're going to, hopefully start something that starts from you and then radiates out.
It's gonna be attract other people and just inspire other people.
Right.
A lot of I recently, like 4 months ago, I got rid of my TV because just too much.
Yeah.
Too much pollution going on. Too much influencing, like whatever side is, what I mean. The facts. You know what you believe.
Mm-hmm.
It's good to stay up to date on current topics, but like, do you find it hard to shield yourself from other people that are trying to influence you, like politically, or just like just to better their goals, or like, I don't know.
You mean people that I know, or
No,
people
I mean,
that just like the world?
Just the world. I mean, what do you think about? Are you pretty strong-minded about what you believe? Or are you easily influenced by media and like? Because everyone in the media puts a spin on anything.
Right. I think I'm pretty strong in what I believe is wrong and right.
Yeah.
And I always, when I was in college, I had a professor that taught Native American law. And one of the things she said about the news was, anytime you hear the word insurgent on the news, substitute it with the word indigenous. And especially when you know zero about that country, except that these insurgents keep attacking the troops. And if that's all that you know about that country and that skirmish, that limited skirmish, then replace it with the word indigenous and see if that changes how you perceive the story.
Oh, wow.
Because in a lot of times it is the indigenous people that are being labeled insurgents. Native people in this country have been labeled insurgents for protecting their land, for protecting their water, for protecting their kids, and for protecting the land, just by their territory and their homes. And we get labeled as insurgents. So if that's what's going on in the news, then you're going to have to rethink all of the news reports you heard about these insurgents that are fighting our troops. And I have nothing against the military. My dad was in the army, my grandpa was in the army. I have so many uncles and cousins that are actively, they're enlisted right now. And I worry about them. but I also am cynical, skeptical of why we are in different countries and all of the different news stories that come out of it. And so I take the news with a big giant bag of salt because they're either not telling us enough or they're not telling us the whole story or they're telling us too much of something stupid.
And just to corrupt something.
Well, and why do we get so obsessed? Why does the news get so obsessed with little things, relatively little, when there's so much to talk about?
Oh, yeah.
And so then I get fed up with the news.
Yeah.
And
I think I'm not going to watch the news for the next 2 years. Just because it was like...
Because it's terrible.
Yeah.
It's really scary, and we've never really watched the news. Me and Jossie.
Yeah. You don't even have TV, huh?
We do.
Oh, you do?
We probably watch too much TV.
Oh, I see.
But we watch a lot of movies.
Oh,
watch a lot of cooking shows.
Oh, nice.
Travel Channel.
Oh, yeah.
Those types of things.
Like,
conspiracy theory shows. And professional sports, which has its own problematic history and present.
Yeah. What is something you wish all people knew? Like, if you could just say, man, if you just do this, you wouldn't be like that.
Let's see. I wish all people knew that their choices have consequences.
That's a good one.
Because even I wish I knew that when I was younger.
Really?
Yeah.
Like to action as a result? Or?
Because I think I probably could have saved myself if I had thought through some of my actions, when I was a teenager or a young adult. I could have saved myself from some danger.
Do you think that, you would change that now? Because that kind of made you who you are now.
It's true. I don't know.
Because that gave you a little bit of strength to pursue, what your dream was.
Yeah, it's true. It did teach me some really hard lessons.
Yeah.
But I'd rather learn those hard lessons from either reading about them from other people's experiences than
fair enough.
than watching it on the news, and knowing that types of danger exists, rather than having personally experienced it. And I'm lucky because I'm alive, but I have trauma that has definitely informs my it did change how I behaved, and it changed how I thought. But
you have more respect for certain things now?
Yeah, more respect, and is more aware of how dangerous this world is for women.
Oh, wow.
And that already growing up as a woman, growing up as a female. We're taught from a really young age, we're always taught, be careful for this, self-defense this, mace, pepper spray this, don't walk at night, don't wear too tight clothes, all of those types of things. Don't wear long hair, don't wear your hair in a ponytail, don't... It's ridiculous, all the things that women have to be aware of that teach you from a really young age that this is not a safe world for women. And as you grow up, it just becomes more and more real.
Yeah.
And whether you experience that or not, well, I guess that's not true. I think you do have to experience it to know just how real it is. Because there are women politicians who it obviously didn't happen to them, or it didn't, whatever happened to them wasn't that bad, because they are not pushing for stronger protections for women, even though they have the power to start pushing for that at a legislative and policy level. You know, because if that was me, I would know from my own experience that, yes, of course these things happen. Yes, of course it's horrible. What can we do about it? Now that I have the ability to introduce House Resolution number 675 or whatever, you know, like, why aren't they doing it?
Oh, wow. That's interesting.
And you know for damn sure that it never happened to the men. Because the men say some stupid shit when it comes to rape, when it comes to abortion availability due to rape, or, you know, like, it's so
They just
stupid.
don't understand.
It's so stupid. It's infuriating that they don't take this seriously, which means that they never suffered any sexual violence. Because I think if one of those guys got raped or got fondled as a boy, they would have a different opinion. I think. I think they would have some empathy. I mean, they should anyway. But maybe it's one of those horrible, horrible clubs that you cannot understand unless you're a part of that club.
What do you think, like, if you were like to introduce some sort of legislation, what would you kind of recommend?
If we're being radical, I would overturn Suquamish v. Oliphant. That was a Supreme Court case that happened in Suquamish. And it was the case that took away tribal jurisdiction over non-tribal members on any reservation. And because Oliphant was a non-native person who was fighting with his, or beating up his Suquamish partner, was arrested by Suquamish police, and then he said, no, you can't do anything to me because I'm not a citizen here. I don't get to vote in your elections. That's what makes you a citizen. So you don't get to arrest me. You don't get to send me to your court because I'm not a citizen here. Went all the way to Supreme Court. I don't think it was him pushing it. I think it was his lawyers. But the Supreme Court said, that's right. The tribe has no jurisdiction over this person.
Even if they're on the land.
Even if they're on their land. And because of a Supreme Court case, it set the precedent for the entire country. For all tribes. And so now, that's why, you know, if there's sheriffs in Suquamish, it's because it's a non-native person that is needing to be arrested or whatever is going on. You know, maybe it's a domestic thing, but so I would overturn that. Because we need to be able to protect our own people. Even if that means it's a non-native person. You know, it's still our land. What's the point of being sovereign if you can't control what happens and prosecute people that violate laws on your land?
So if someone breaks in your house, and you have the you're legally right to shoot them, right?
Yeah. Well, I don't know about shoot them, but like how dangerous is it? You get to bash them with a bat.
We're almost done. I just have a couple more questions.
Okay.
But since you're more wiser now, you're a little bit older, you have a little more knowledge. What is something you now realize about life? Just you came to the realization, oh yeah, I know that. I should have, you know, I get it now, type thing, you know.
Time is short.
Time is short, man.
Time is short.
Yeah, time is short.
And it goes so fast. Like, it's crazy. Because I'm almost 40. And when this past year, I was the graduation speaker at my high school that I graduated from.
Okay.
On my 20-year anniversary of graduating from high school. So I graduated before some of those kids were born.
Oh, wow.
You know, the graduates.
Yeah.
And a lot of their parents were my high school classmates and schoolmates, and
Yeah.
it's crazy how fast that went.
Yeah.
You know, 20 years, just like like a blink. Even though I know some days it's at 5 o'clock yet. You know, I can't barely get to the end of the day. But
I still have a hat that's 20 years old that I still wear. Like,
yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
like older than like my
your
my
niece.
nephew.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I had this 20 years ago. And I still
Oh, I
like
got
it.
this the day Camina was born. And so it's, yeah, that time is short, and it's kind of a weird thing, but you know, when sometimes you don't get along with people,
Yeah.
especially family,
Yeah.
it's okay to not hang out with them.
Yeah.
You know, especially if their goal is to make other people upset or
That's interesting.
angry. You know, like they just always want to fight.
Yeah.
It's okay to not be around them.
Do you experience that?
A little bit.
I do too.
A little bit. And a lot of times, you know, they just want that brings them joy, I guess, in a weird
just
way.
Like agitating you.
Yeah, and agitating anybody.
Oh, yeah.
So then I just don't take it personal, but I also don't hang out with them.
Yeah.
And I've given myself the freedom to not be around people like that.
Definitely true.
And it makes me a lot happier,
Yeah.
even though I feel a little bit guilty that I'm not seeing them because they are my family.
Yeah.
But if the trade-off is that if my quality of life decreases
Yeah.
because I'm making myself go see somebody out of family obligation,
Yeah.
that's not helping me.
Yeah, it's not helping you at all.
It's not helping me. And on the side of that coin, or however you say, I've also stopped trying to figure out why the family's fighting about things.
Yeah.
And so if I want to go see a family member where them and my parents or them and my cousin have been fighting for 20 years,
Oh, wow.
I don't care. And I'll just, if I want to see them, I'll go see them.
Yeah.
We don't have to talk about it.
Yeah.
I'm not there to help them figure it out.
Yeah.
I just want to see them because,
You don't want to be in politics.
well, and I care about them.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that I have to jump in there and busy myself with whatever their squabbles are.
Yeah, that's
Like that's that.
you let affect you what you want to affect you.
Yeah. And so it's like a double. It's not. I don't think of it as a contradiction,
Yeah.
but I guess it is a little bit where.
No, it's fine. It's pretty much just not letting like certain things bother you. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just like,
Which includes people.
yeah, I mean, it might concern you in a little bit, but I mean, it doesn't directly affect you. Why? And you have nothing to add to it. And,
Yeah.
I worry about it.
Why worry about it, and why bring it around you and your family?
Yeah.
You know, so I've given myself that freedom to say, well, that's how they're gonna be.
Well, that is also like you're trying to attract the positive.
Mm-hmm.
You're not trying to dwell on that negative stuff. So that's what I think you're trying to do.
Yeah.
But, I'm gonna give you a quick question, and it's just like you might have to think about it for a second.
Okay.
And if you don't have like a good answer, it's okay. I can edit it out. But it's nothing like complicated. But I kind of want to know your meaning of life. What's your meaning of life?
Wow.
And there's no right answer.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Well, I think it probably means different things to different people.
Yeah.
And for me, I don't know if it's the meaning of life, because I don't think life has meaning. Like, I don't think we're supposed to figure out the meaning of it.
Oh, okay.
Like, plants grow because they grow.
Yeah.
The air and the wind blows because it blows. Like, what does it mean that the air blows?
Yeah.
I don't think we're supposed to figure that out. I think what every person is supposed to, or could strive for, is to see what their purpose is.
Yeah.
And so then everybody's purpose is going to be different.
Yeah.
I think one of my purposes is to connect people.
Yeah.
I'm a connector. I'm a weaver of people, is what this Maori guy told me.
Oh.
He's a weaver of stories, and he told me I'm a weaver of people. And when he told me that, like, he barely knew me, but we had a bunch of people in common, and just listening to his stories, I was telling him about somebody else, and that's what, this was probably within about 20 minutes of meeting, and he told me that, and I was just like, who are you? How do you know this? Like, but he said it so clearly, and it's just very simple.
Yeah.
And it made a lot of sense.
That's awesome.
And
Connecting with people, huh?
yeah, and so I try to be helpful that way.
That's cool.
And I try to let people know about folks that are either working on the same type of thing, or artists that would really bloom together or blossom together, or books written by folks that I really respect, and how they could help out other people trying to figure out a certain area,
Yeah.
that type of thing. But I also think that one of my purposes is to help protect my communities.
Yeah.
And there's this big push, and like, for me being in the academy, people want me to research and write. They want me to publish what I know.
Yeah.
But that's not what I'm gonna do. I mean, I am,
Yeah.
but not in the way they want.
Oh.
The academy has this expectation you're gonna go in, find out everything you can, and publish as much as you can about whatever you found out.
Oh, okay. So
And
you can
that-
share with other people?
So you can build up your own knowledge base.
Oh.
And that's not my goal there.
Oh.
My goal is to show, through academically approved research and writing, because you got to play the game.
Yeah.
You got to play the game of whatever system you're in.
Yeah.
And I'm going to play the game to show them just how strong we are,
Oh.
especially through our arts.
Oh. Okay.
And I'm going to do it in ways that respect my communities and that hold them up. I'm not going to sugarcoat anything, or I'm not going to hide when there is a problem or a conflict or anything like that. No, I'll be honest about it, but that's not what the focus is going to be. It's kind of like scandal cells or sex cells,
Yeah, yeah.
The same is true in academia.
Oh, really?
They like to focus on the problems.
Oh, they do?
Yes, it's called deficit-based research.
Oh, wow.
So you go in looking for the problems instead of looking at, wow, this community is doing great at this. Why are they doing great? How are they doing great?
Oh.
It's like, wow, only 70% of their kids are graduating from high school. This is a problem. Why is this a problem? Instead of saying 70% of their kids graduated.
Yeah.
That's a lot for people who have a really bad relationship with school as an institution, whose first introduction to school was being ripped out of their homes, stolen from their families, and transported 1,000 miles away to a place that was completely foreign.
Yeah.
That was natives' introduction to school.
Wow.
And for us, fast forward 150 years, 200 years to the present, where now we have 70% of us graduating from high school. That's incredible. You know? So changing how you look at things is yeah.
I'm really envious about like the way you've like progressed in your field. Like you've actually jumped every hoop. You've done like, you know what you wanted, and you got there, and now you just like, you can do whatever you want now because you prepared yourself that way. And I want other people to learn from this process. Like there's a certain way you have to discipline yourself to get to a certain goal. Like, and you've had to discipline yourself, motivate yourself to get to where you're at.
I've had to do that, but at the same time, you know, it's a lot of sacrifice. And if you do want to position yourself, you know, with a PhD or an MFA, or, you know, sometimes even college or high school, but you have to be aware that these types of paths, they will take all your time if you let it. They'll take all your energy if you let it. And it'll stress you out, you know, if you let it. There's always going to be some stress, no matter what job or what schooling you're going through. But I wasn't careful in the first few years of the PhD program. And I got really sick. I got really sick because I was letting myself get stressed out, and I wasn't paying attention to my body. I wasn't exercising as much, maybe not even at all, I don't know. And not eating well, and not being as loving or accepting the love that I was getting. I was just so focused. I gotta do well. Feeling that pressure of being one of the only natives in the program. You know, even though there was these other 2 women in my cohort, we're the only natives in the program. So putting pressure on myself to do well and to show that we were these superstars, even if we were just doing our job, we would have been superstars anyway. And so I got really sick, and it went undiagnosed for a few years, and it's been a long road to get back to being normal. You know, and so it's medicine every day.
Really?
Yeah, and like they had to shut down my thyroid, and and so just being, that's why now I take the time to take care of myself. Because I didn't before. And my health really suffered.
So, but you kind of remedied it now a little bit?
It's pretty close to being cured. But at what expense, you know? It's like years. It took years for me to get back to normal. And that's the sacrifice I made to be able to do whatever I want now. You know, like you said, that now I can call the shots, or I can choose which path I want to go on because I have the PhD, which opens doors that I never even dreamed of. But at the same time, you know, at what cost? And you have to be real about that for anybody that is thinking about pursuing it. So you need to take your health seriously.
Yeah, that's good to know. I mean, you did a lot of like health sacrifices to get where you're at.
And that was never my intent. Like, it's not me trying to be like, I sacrificed my health for a PhD. No, like, who wants to do that? Nobody wants to do that. And if you can avoid it, please do. And I mean, don't avoid getting the PhD. If you can avoid sacrificing your health to get a PhD, you're gonna be light years ahead of where I am now.
Is it I never had the opportunity to get a PhD, but is it like some of the stuff interesting and like do you have to make it interesting for you to learn it, or is it like do you just accept everything they make you do? Or do you have to,
Some things you don't have a choice.
Yeah.
You know, it's the requirements of whatever program you go into.
yeah.
But once you get past the required coursework
Yeah.
and you're done having to go to class, and you go and you decide what your research topic is,
Yeah.
that's when it gets really good.
Oh, okay.
Because then you can go out and you do your research. Either you do interviews, or you go through archives and historical documents, or you do statistical analysis, you know, like pull data from wherever,
Yeah.
put it into a software program that gives you these amazing visuals. You know, and once you start getting into that point and it's your own questions that you're trying to figure out the answers to, that's when it gets fun.
That's when you, like in the movies, they're like going through the libraries and
Yeah, it's like research montage and shows them pulling out books and they working really hard on the computer.
That's awesome.
Yeah, once you get to the research montage, that's fun.
Okay, that's cool. That's a good thing to know.
And then the hard part, again, because it's hard because you go through the coursework and then you figure out what your research question is, and then your committee has to say, yes, you can do this. Then you go out and you do your research, and then you come back and you write a book.
Wow.
Called a dissertation. And then the dissertation says that this was my question. These are the methods that I used. This is the literature I looked at that said that, yes, this is a new question. And then this is what I found out. And these are ways that it could be used in the world, or these are ways that somebody could take my research and keep going forward.
Oh, wow.
And that's, you know, what a PhD is for. It's because you're creating something new.
Oh.
You're creating a new idea. You're asking a new question to an old answer. Or you're coming up with a new way of doing something. A new method.
Maybe I should look into that.
And it's because, you know, for an associate's, you're just getting used to college. You're getting used to going to school. A bachelor's is you're showing that you can do sustained coursework, you know, for a number of years. You can focus in one area and learn a lot about that area. Master's programs are work training programs. A lot of times master's programs, you graduate from there and you're ready and trained to work. And so I have a master's in museum studies. When I graduated from there, I was ready to work in a museum, even though I had already been working in museums. Qualified me for a higher pay grade. But same thing for professional programs and like law degrees and business degrees. You know, those are essentially master's programs, but training you for a specialty in something. Business, law, accounting, you know, those types of things where you need specialized training beyond what the bachelor's offers. And then the PhD is when you've been working for a while. You have training, you know, in school and on the job, and you see a hole or you see a flaw in the system, and you say, how come this isn't working? This would be easier if we could do it this way. Or how come nobody has connected this dot and this dot? And when you see all these holes, or you say, I just want an article about this, and you go and look and there's nobody ever wrote about it. And so then that is a gap in the literature. That's a gap in the research. So then you say, okay, well, excuse me, if nobody is working on this, maybe I should work on it.
That's awesome.
So it's when you have something new to contribute.
That's interesting. I never knew that. And I'm glad you kind of explained it like in detail.
Yeah.
Because other people will put it into perspective.
Well, the PhD is really about the production of ideas.
Production of ideas.
Yeah, you're producing new knowledge.
That's awesome.
And so then when you go be a professor in a research one institution like the University of Washington, you are expected to the production of knowledge. You're expected to contribute to the production of new knowledge.
Oh, new knowledge. Wow. That's interesting. So that's how things are invented now.
Things are invented, new theories are come about.
Wow.
There's all these different studies whenever you say, listen to NPR or something, and they say researchers at so-and-so university have just released a study that says blah, 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 blah.
Yeah. That's cool. I never knew that. That's interesting.
And so then those people are professors, usually. And there's teaching professors and there's research professors.
Oh, there's two different types?
Oh, there's all kinds. And then there's lecturers. Lecturers usually are not trying to get raises to go through what they call tenure track. Tenure track is when there's 3 levels. There's assistant professor, which I am.
Okay.
I just started. Then there's associate professor, and you have to prove that you've been doing the work, research, writing, publishing, teaching, service, to get to the next level. And they give you 6 or 7 years to get to the next level.
Yeah.
And then after that, I don't know how long it goes between associate and full. But once you get associate professor, they say that you have tenure.
Oh.
You have tenure. You have job security.
That's awesome. I think, before that, at your master's, you had job security.
It depends on wherever you're working.
Yeah. So that's awesome. I'm glad you broke it down. Any immediate goals for you right now? Your associate or your what are you?
Assistant professor.
You're trying to be an associate or full?
Yes. Yeah. I am in a tenure track position. So that means that in 3 years they'll say, yep, you're on track. And in 5 years I'll submit my packet, and in 6 years they'll review it. So by my 6th or 7th year, then hopefully they'll say, yep.
For associate?
To become an associate professor.
Wow. I mean, that will go by pretty fast.
Probably.
Since when we get older, things just
go faster.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any plans to kind of not work related plans, to enjoy life a little bit?
I want to get back to beading. I haven't beaded in a long time.
Any vacations? I know you went to France.
I did go to France. I would like to get back to Europe in the next, year or so. I'd like to go to the Caribbean. That'd be nice.
They have all-inclusive
resorts and...
Yeah. I've had someone call me half off this. I checked on the website and it's yeah, the dude was right.
Wow. Crazy.
I was I'm not ready for that yet, though.
Yeah, and then I would like to go to New Zealand. I would really like to go there.
What would you do there?
Visit friends.
Oh, you got friends out there?
Mm-hmm.
That's cool.
Visit friends and travel around and look at their native art.
Oh, yeah.
Because their art is off the chain.
Yeah. I hope you get back into painting. I just got some canvas and paints because I'm going to try painting again as well.
Yeah. What do you like to paint?
I don't know. We'll find out.
It's a mystery.
Yeah, well, it's probably abstract, but is there anything you give advice to someone that's trying to further their career, further their education? Anything that you would advise to someone, maybe in high school or middle school or just?
I
Because you're
would.
a doctor now, so.
Yeah. I would advise them, if you're not a morning person, don't take morning classes, especially if you're in the dorm.
Okay.
I would advise them to, if you can, spend at least a year in the dorms.
Really?
Yeah. That's to get the experience.
I'll get the experience.
To get the experience of just living away from home. And you're in a controlled environment. You don't have real financial responsibilities, you know, but you have your own space. Because paying rent sucks. So then, you know, don't jump right into that.
Well, someone's paying for your dorm rent, right?
Yeah, but you don't have to pay every month, and you don't have to pay the light bill, and you don't have to pay for garbage, and you don't have to, you know.
That's true.
It's kind of grown, but you still don't have, it's like pre-apartment phase, because you're not under mom's roof.
Yeah.
So you have a lot of freedom.
Yeah, a lot of freedom.
But you don't have to have all of the financial responsibilities of being in your own apartment.
What if you're not a very motivated person? Like, I mean, like, because it's really easy to be lazy.
Yeah.
You have to force yourself to do these things that you're doing.
Yeah, you do. I would say if you're having trouble being motivated, and you think that it's hard, you know, to go to school, take some time off and go work in a fish cannery. Everything after that is cake, right? Right?
Yeah, that's right.
I worked 3 summers in a fish cannery when I was in college, and every single office job after that, every single class was cake. After that,
story too.
My clothes didn't smell like fish guts. I didn't have to wear rain gear to school. I could sit down. I could get up and go to the bathroom whenever I wanted. It was amazing. Amazing.
That's interesting.
It's like, if you're all about creating perspective, go do a hard job, you know, and then go back to school. And school is so easy.
I'm glad you brought that up, because it's so true, and I've found the same result with my own experience too. So.
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna wrap this up, but you had a lot of really good stuff to talk about, and I appreciate you coming by.
Thank you for the invite.
Yeah. Yeah, that was good. I told you it'd be harmless.